Yo YouTube, you got Video Game House here once again with another deck profile video. This is called All You Need Is Budew. Now, it's a little off-putting, but everyone knows with this new set, Prismatic Evolutions, Budew is the only real playable card. It is going to be used in every single deck, and unfortunately we're just going to have to deal with that for the next couple of years until rotation happens to get rid of it. But right now, because of how strong it is, obviously we need to build a deck around it. So why don't we try only Budew? Obviously everyone knows Budew at this point. Budew, 0 energy, Itchy Pollen, free retreat cost. Itchy Pollen does 10 damage, plus it stops your opponent from using items next turn. Very, very good card. So we built everything around it. We used the Duskull, Dusklops, Dusknoir family tree to put up that free damage by taking your own prizes out. You can knock out your opponent's Pokemon. Your Itchy Pollen can weaken your opponent, stopping them from using items, putting them in a crippled position, while also getting us those free prizes from taking our opponent's knockouts and taking our own knockouts, setting up, say, our Radiant Charizard with less prizes that we have, the less energy it costs in order for it to attack, along with Ursaluna, same deal. Weakening Pokemon using Dusknoir or taking Pokemon out, while also trading in order to get ourselves set up with Ursaluna and Radiant Charizard. We built around the loss of our own prizes by adding certain supporters such as Iono and Roxanne, so even if we start going behind, we end up actually getting more value out of those Iono and Roxannes. We also play the Pidgeotto Pidgeot line in order to use our Grand Tree, along with being able to just search any one card out of our deck every single turn, making things a little bit more comfortable for us. And the basically the entire line of items and supporters are more or less self-explanatory. The aspect that we use, like I said, Grand Tree, that allows us to evolve Duskull all the way to Dusknoir, that allows us to evolve Pidgey all the way to Pidgeot, basically every single turn. In order to weaken our opponent's Pokemon, we do have a 1-of Gravity Mountain. It also does help get around certain certain stadiums that could be ending up being a problem, mainly just the full metal we found was a problem, along with neutralization zone, since we don't really do much damage outside of Dusknoir. So like with neutralization zone, our only other attacker is Radiant Charizard, and Ursaluna can't really get attacks in, so kind of needed a second one in there. Counter Gain, another one where we can set ourselves behind using Dusknoir by not taking a prize, so we can use Counter Gain to have Charizard or Ursaluna cost 1 energy less to attack. And our literal only engine for energies is 2 double turbos and 2 fire. I know that is covered, I'm sorry for that, but this is the only way to make it look nice. So let's get on into the games, show you how it works a little bit, and maybe you give it a shot. Maybe you enjoy it. Let me know in the comment section below how you think you can make this deck a little bit better. I feel like there's just something that was missing, but I felt it was really consistent with just being able to set up a Budew and just kind of play the rest of the game out all the way into those Ursaluna and Charizard plays. It was very comfortable, but let me know if you guys can think of something a little bit more punchy. Let's get on into it. So as I say at the beginning of all my videos, so this video here is a recording that I have done off stream in order to get the gameplays out there. We speed it up so that we can do commentary over it, so you guys can just see how the deck works without having to watch through all the fluff of waiting 20 minutes of trying to have our opponent go, you know, maybe I should wait 2 minutes, play an energy, and pass. So this was closer to the release of Prismatic Evolutions. I think we're about a week in now, so we will be seeing the wonderful decks that is Eevee. This is ladder play, so we played against a couple more meta competitive decks, and it just works. The deck obviously wants to go second because we always want to have that Budew out, so we can just set up an item lock and then persist to push everything we possibly can forward into playing into our combination of Budew and Dusknoir to take knockouts. Our opponents set up incredibly well. They're all using the boosted EVs, but if you guys watched the Flareon and Jolteon video from before, obviously boosted EV is not exactly the only EV you should be playing. It should be Resonant EV as well, so that way you can get the free multiple evolutions on turn 1 and not have to worry about trying to find your other Pokemon. Our setup turn was fairly simple, just Buddy-Buddy, Nest Ball, and just being able to get everything on the board. We have a very good setup. You know, we just need to find our evolution pieces, rare candies, or, you know, Grand Tree. But now that our opponent has not been able to use items for this turn, he can't switch out this Noctowl with a free item. He can't search items with the Noctowl that he's able to use, so he's just kind of stunned there for just a minute, and that's all we need is just one turn of stun to give us that extra free grind happy, we can play this out kind of thing. I did play Gravity Mountain here, and I wasn't really thinking all that much because it was still early in the testing phase. Gravity Mountain is one of the cards you're supposed to just hold on to unless, just in case they do play stage 2s. If they don't, then there's no reason to play the Gravity Mountain, and we do still run like cards that can be used with Gravity Mountain a little bit better. And obviously we have stage 2 Pokemon like our Pidgeot, so it only becomes a problem for me for minusing 30. So we're just going to continue to try and play around that and look for our own stadiums. Allowing us to search any card out of the deck allows us to get Grand Tree or Rare Candy. I went for Rare Candy this time. Probably should have hit Grand Tree to get rid of the Gravity Mountain, but it's whatever. We intentionally lower ourselves here because I know that Jolteon is his attacker, the one that he was trying to use. So we tried to weaken the Jolteon because 2 Dusknoir hits on a Jolteon is equal to game for us. So we were trying to just stun our opponent using the Budew. The deck does rely a lot on Budew. Realistically, you want to put Budew out there, get them in a bad position, and then just kind of sit on that for as long as possible, just stopping them from using items, and then just consistently keep setting up your board to do that damaging play. That Jolteon, obviously, not a very good position that he's in. Since, you know, one more Dusknoir, and it's over for him. We do, obviously, have more options, because we have Latias for free retreats. We have a second Budew already on the bench, ready to go for the second he takes out our Budew. Spread damage decks does kind of hurt the deck a little bit, because then Budew can get wiped out multiple times instead of setting up backup ones. So it's a little bit more annoying. You don't need Latias on the board if you get both Budews, but it all depended on where you need to go with these things. We are able to go out with the quick search again to just go find another Rare Candy, just to get another Dusknoir, which allows us to get that free knockout. It does even up the playing field, so I go to 4 prizes along with him going to 4 prizes, only for a moment. Unfortunately, our prize gave us the Roxanne, which is just lovely for us. I set up Pidgeot thinking I might be able to use it, so I intentionally kind of set up this play for, you know, future turns, set up the Fezandipiti here, so that way, because he did take a knockout, we set ourselves to 6, we set him to 2, we just kind of deck thin a little bit more just to keep pushing, you know, the win here. We just need to keep pressure on him. He's got no energies, he's got nothing left. We could have item locked here, absolutely, but I was hoping we can get another knockout, and since he put Fan Rotom forward, I figured Pidgeot can do that for us. So we just kind of keep pushing forward with this. We didn't want to get Iono'd as well, so we kind of just try and thin more and more and more and more. And since Pidgeot is the only thing being affected by that Gravity Mountain, we did get rid of the Gravity Mountain using Pidgeot as ability, or the effect of the attack. Since we have absolutely hindered our opponent to 0 degree of being able to counterplay us, this is a more or less just a free win. We're just going to keep punishing his Pokemon. We couldn't knock out the Sylveon, so we just used Dusknoir to get another knockout, and then he has to push something else forward, which we're now going to be able to still weaken and play around it. Again, this is more of a, like, alright, how do we play around this more and more? I figured he was going to put up the either weakened Noctowl or the Flareon here, so I didn't take another prize. But looking back on it, I guess he could have always had Counter Catcher in play to try and play around it. But since we never evolved anything, we just kind of left our Latias to be able to cook and just retreat our Pokemon back, so we never really had an issue. But yeah, the list, like I said, very comfortable. I feel I did make mistakes, and one of the things you always want to do is, you know, go back and go through your mistakes, you know? So long as you can look back on your games and go, I could have probably done this better, or you get a better grasp of your deck, it means that you're learning, and it just feels better over time, you know? Alright, so this was actually a match between one of the top decks in the meta, which is Budew and Reggie Drago. And unfortunately, he did let us go first. So obviously, my deck always wants to go second. So going first not too great. We're slowing down our opponent because item lock do be nice, and Budew and Reggie Drago don't mix very well. They kind of hate each other because obviously the entire combination is using manual attach plus energy switch to get those energies set up on Reggie Drago very, very quickly. With Itchy Pollen just being a thing, they can't do that, and that slows them down by 2 turns, and that just gives us a lot of time to just kind of work in whatever capacity I need to, aka setting ourselves up with all of these cards here. It's funny because you can actually put yourself behind using the Dusknoir, so that way Defiance Band becomes effective. And obviously, since we're just going to poke damage on the Reggie Drago V-Star, he's already at 260. So 2 Dusknoirs and actually knocking our opponent out with the 260 is insane. Otherwise, if, say, the Reggie Drago only had 10 damage on it, we can still use Dusknoir. We go -2, he'll be at 6. We can actually use the Defiance Belt on Budew and knock him out. And that is the funniest thing. Obviously, our opponent realized that he can't use items and we're not going to let him use items, so he just kind of drops it and moves on to the next game, which is fair. So we went right into our next game as well. I wasn't even on the loading bar for longer than 2 seconds there. I just like, next game. The Grand Tree has yet to make an appearance, so like, it's hard to really show off how useful that is, but it really is. Especially if our opponent just doesn't have a good stadium to clear the board. Like, Grand Tree is pretty good. It is one of those cards, though, that you do have to look into your deck. So, like, if you have a Nest Ball, you should spend 2 seconds looking what Pokemon do you have. Because if you target one of your Pokemon, it allows you to go through your deck. And then if you just don't have certain cards, you just go, oh, that's not good for me. We just didn't want to see his cards, so we just remove the attacker, which is Uxie, and since he has nothing in the Lost Zone and no Comfey, and since he didn't, no Colress Tenacity or anything along those lines, we just start setting up future plays and just item locking him so he can't use Lost Vacuum. He can't, like, it becomes very unrealistic for him to be able to continue play. The second I saw the Cyclozar, I was unsure what he was playing. I believe that it was some version of, like, a stall list that uses Mimikyu Cyclozar, because Cyclozar does attack to just, you draw 5 cards, I believe. So we just kind of don't allow certain things to happen here by just taking free knockouts. What I could have done here was use the Dusknoir again, in order to try and set up certain plays. That just didn't happen. So we were just going to keep going into search. Rare Candy Dusknoir. Dusknoir goes Blast. Blast can remove the Mimikyu because why not? Since the Cramorant was not attacking and the Cyclozar wasn't really doing much, there was almost no play for me here. But this matchup more shows like the consistency of how easy it is to just set up all of my Pokemon on the board where my opponent just gets hard locked. Can't use items. Their supporters are not super useful. And then we just go, okay, well, this is just going to be a slow burn until you stop. He did get rid of the Grand Tree, unfortunately, but not our biggest idea, really. We can always get behind and use Defiance Band for extra damage. We also just need certain cards to go back into our deck, so we can just freely search them. We have a Rare Candy already, so we have another Dusknoir to hit off. And then we just go, you know what? Taking another prize. And since the Cyclozar can't do anything, we're just going to wait. I feel like I could have weakened the Cyclozar and then Defiance Banded on the Budew, just so that way I could do 130 with the Dusknoir and then hit another 40 damage with Budew until, like, the Cyclozar got weakened enough. But I figured, let's just lock him and continue play normally. Cyclozar just unable to attack. My favorite card right there, Kecleon, does show up. And I actually thought it was a threat, funny enough, because I've just played the game for too long. Yeah, I don't know why I played the... I think I played the Gravity Mountain to thin here, but that really is unnecessary and kind of bad at the same time. But since we're intentionally putting ourselves at 3, so we can use our 2 Roxannes that are in the deck, by the way. Same thing with Iono. We run 2 Ionos as well, but we intentionally put ourselves down. That Budew, or that Kecleon states whenever it gets hit or attacked, it flips a coin, and 50% of the time just negates the damage entirely. So, with Budew only doing 10 damage per turn, we really don't want to do that. So we intentionally set ourselves up for the Ursaluna play, have a free retreat with Budew, bring out that Ursaluna counter gain, and just slap for a knockout. Going into our last game, I believe, we open up our Budew, our good friend Little Budew. Now, there are, like I said, like the deck, these matches gave us Budew a lot, even though there's only 2 in the deck. I will admit to this. But the idea of the deck is obviously to start Budew. We have many ways of starting Budew, and we want to go second, where we can go certain things like finding Nest Ball for Latias, or finding Buddy-Buddy Poffin to get down our Budew on our bench, and then just getting a free retreat. Like Arven can find Buddy-Buddy Poffin and Rescue Board, so that way we don't have to find Latias. If we have any of our Pokemon in the opener zone, we can go Rescue Board to retreat out into Budew. That allows us to get extra time. 1 turn of item blocking gives us a lot of time to play the game. Like even right here, like just item lock. Yeah, he's got a Growlithe with 3 energies, but like he can't use items, so if he didn't have Arcanine in hand, then he can't go searching for it. He can't go, you know, certain degrees of knocking me out. Like he could have taken out the Budew there. It just doesn't change anything. And instead of like playing the game out, I was baffled by what happened here. Of like, wait a minute, why did nothing happen? So I froze for a moment, confused. So I just hit the Dusknoir into a knockout and moved on. But again, when the games are like these, when you run into like certain decks, these are all on ladder, by the way. Sometimes you just run into the Arcanine Charizard list, which is more of a practice deck than anything else. But sometimes when you run into ladder stuff like that, you still have to play it out, of course. But it's a good show off of the deck of how we can still play around multiple things, how strong Budew is by just saying, no, you're not allowed to use items for 1 turn, and that 1 turn can cost you an entire game, and how consistent the deck is with setting up a negative board for yourself intentionally in order to abuse cards like Roxanne and Iono, because we can search out our cards like Fezandipiti. It's a single prize list until Fezandipiti hits the board or Ursaluna hits the board. But you intentionally blow yourself up in order to weaken your opponent's board. You Budew to item lock, and then you Ursaluna for a big knockout, or you Fezandipiti to draw 3, so you can hit your opponent with an Iono, set him to, you know, 1, 2, 3 cards or whatever, and then you just hit him with Fezandipiti. So you go to whatever prize count you're at with Iono, and then you draw 3 extra. Same thing with Roxanne, which is why we run 2 of them. Very few decks ever even run 2 Roxanne, but the entire deck is about losing your own prizes intentionally. Lose a couple of prizes, hit them with a Roxanne, they go to 2 mid-game, and that's like the worst feeling. And then you can hit them with a Roxanne because you probably lost a Pokemon that last turn. So you're able to go to 6, Fezandipiti, and +3, and now your board state is just huge, and you can just take the initiative back. And, you know, if you're at 3 prizes, that Charizard only needs, I don't know, 2 energy to attack, I believe, fire and colorless, so 1 fire out of the 2 fire you have in the deck, and a counter gain, which is searchable by Arven. The deck, I believe, is very, very good. I believe that it's very, very strong, and I do believe that it hurts a lot when Budew becomes the attacker, because it's like a mental game at that point where you poke them, and then they just sit there going, I can't play the game. This is no fun. Fun for me. I control everything. The entire deck is about controlling your opponent to do whatever you need them to do. So I'd say give it a shot. I think the deck is a lot of fun. I think that it can definitely outplay even some of the tougher decks in the top meta. It stops Charizard from evolving with Rare Candy. It stops Reggie Drago from using its energy switches. It slows down your opponent just enough to allow us double Dusknoir into taking those double prizes. I think that it's a lot of fun to play. If you guys have the time, the ability, give it a shot. Deck list will be in the description. Take it easy, everybody. I'll see you next time.